Let's see. Okay, we are now recording. And now, deep breath. Welcome to the Overwhelmed Working Mom Summit. I'm Kay Young, your host, and today we're speaking with Linda Bloom, and the subject is goodbye stress. So I know you're going to want to hang in here for that. Linda is considered to be an expert in human relations for over 30 years, and she's a psychotherapist, an international consultant, a seminar leader, and a regular presenter at universities and institutes. She's also the co-author with her husband, Charlie, of 3 books, with the 4th that's coming, I've just learned. They are 101 Things I Wish I Knew When I Got Married, and which is subtitled Simple Lessons to Make Love Last, and Secrets of Great Marriages, Real Truth from Real Couples, and her latest book, Happily Ever After, and 39 Other Myths About Marriage, or about love. Happily Ever After, and 39 Other Myths About Love. She and her husband just had that book come out last year, so you might want to be looking for that one especially, and you'll get some ideas about some other things soon. She's also a regular blogger for some pretty powerful magazines and newspapers. She's on Psychology Today, Psych Central, Huffington Post, and others. And the website for their business is bloomwork.com. And it looks beautiful when you open it up and you don't see any little dots on the top of where to go. You just hit those 3 little lines on the top, and my gosh, there's so much stuff in there that they have been doing. It's really exciting. And obviously they've been working together for some time. So welcome, Linda.
I'm delighted to be here with you. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, I'm so glad that I learned about you. I just was really pleased. And so let's get right to it. What's the best thing we can do to reduce our stress?
Well, people need to tell the truth about how much stress they're living in. And because there's so much information coming at us all the time, and we're inundated with information, and we have taken on, as working moms, a lot of challenges and a lot of commitments. And sometimes we can feel like we're on the rack, that we're being stretched. And we can often feel guilty that we're not doing fully committed to the career. And then when we fully commit to the career, we can feel guilty that we're not fully committed to the family. And it sometimes feels like there's just not enough time and energy to go around. And so to de-stress, we have to be willing to just get off of the merry-go-round for a few minutes and have some mindfulness meditation and check inside and tell ourselves the truth about where we are. And when I work with people, I tell them to tack it down. 0 is no stress. 10 is I'm in meltdown. I can't even think straight. I feel crazy. And any place in between. And to start with really assessing where you are. Once you tell yourself the truth about your level of stress, then you can start to get a hold of the motivation to do something about it. There are a lot of good ways to de-stress, but it all starts with telling the truth, not just standing it, I can bear it, I'm a pack animal, just put some more weight on me, I can do it, where we end up making ourselves sick with resentment, flu, and actually physically sick if we keep wearing ourselves out long enough.
You know, I was so surprised that that was your first thing, because I was waiting for a little strategy, and then I was thinking, oh, I'm not sure if I'm telling myself the truth either. And by the way, folks, I have spoken with Linda on the phone several times, but we haven't met until today. And I just was so relaxed around her because she is relaxed. And that's just a wonderful way to be.
I don't live with a lot of stress now. I have tremendous amount of challenge in my life, but I'm on the edge of excitement rather than the edge of fear. And there's a huge difference when you're coming from a place where you're very centered and you know how to take good care of yourself to replenish your energies, you know. And it's been a while
Yeah.
Work
I
balance.
I wasn't indicating that you were not stressed any longer. I was indicating that your methods are working. Yes.
Yes, I have a tremendous amount of challenge, but
Hmm.
I don't actually experience the anxiety that created the stress before. And I don't experience the fatigue. And I don't have any threshold for resentment anymore. I don't martyr myself. I have been disloyal to my lineage about the long suffering martyr women in my line, who could bear it.
Yeah.
And I think it stops in my generation, and my daughter doesn't have this problem.
Oh, that's good. But what is it that keeps so many women in such a chronic stress situation? Why is this happening?
There are two major influences that I've been able to discover. Number one, as when we're socialized as females, we're taught about being in service, having our antenna out and having our feelers scanning for what people need from us. And being in service is such a beautiful thing. But too much of a good thing is a bad thing. And if we don't put ourselves on the list to be nourished and to be served and to be cared for by self and others, that's when we get out of balance. And so putting the correction in to be in service, be generous of spirit, it's one of our most magnificent qualities, but make sure we're on the list to be given to by self and other.
Oh, I didn't think it was all right to receive.
Yes, well, all the greatest lovers are gracious receivers. And to commit ourselves to becoming gracious receivers, to be willing to ask for what we want and to open to receive from others is a really important life skill. There's another thing that is a major influence. In many ways, the women in our generation and even our daughters, although they're having a better chance of it, we're the pioneers. We're in the midst of a global revolution with women coming into their power, really creating egalitarian relationships in the small sector and seeing to it that they have respect in the business sector and the professional realm. And a lot of us didn't have models of moms who did the family and the career. And so we have a learning deficit. No blame on our moms. They gave us the best that they possibly could. But we are the first generations to do this well, to negotiate with our partners about sharing who's going to diaper that baby and who's going to get up in the night and who's going to wash that toilet and who's going to wash those dishes and cook. And there is a change going on when I see what my kids are doing with their partners and with their kids. It really is getting better, but it's still moving rather slowly. And women are caught in the gap. We're still in the transition of trying to do so much. And we don't have the supports that a lot of the European countries have, where you've got paid maternity leave and where you've got childcare centers that are very affordable and, really comprehensive health care. And so women are really scrambling, trying to do it all, and you can't do it all.
Yes, that's right. And I want to make a point that I knew we needed to receive, but there was a long time that I didn't really even think about it. And I have been very fortunate. I guess I would say that my mother did work, and that was a long time ago because I'm older now, and not many women were working then. But she was a nurse, and she really loved it. And I remember her coming. She worked nights when we were little, so she could be there in the morning, and it was really interesting to watch. And finally, she did stop working when I was in high school. But it was neat to have a working mom. It was all right.
Unusual. Do you know she was a rare bird in her day?
Yes, we were ahead of the scale. So I'm a working mom and working grandma. So anyway, well, let's get into. You were talking in another, maybe it was one of your books about filling up our soul tanks. What does that mean?
Well, we're each challenged to know how we feel filled, how we feel whole, how we rebalance ourselves. And when we're so busy being in service in our careers and with our children and all the people around us, we sometimes haven't taken the time to really see what lights us up, what fills us up. Now, some people, they need to have solitude. Do you know, the introverts need a lot of solitude. They need their alone time, and that helps them to fill their tank. I'm a flaming extrovert, so I need to be with people. I love to talk to people and start a meeting. I'm in 2 women's groups, not 1. I'm in 2. And I love having meaningful conversations with my husband. That's how we start every single day. I call it talking meditation.
How wonderful.
Yeah, and so that's how I fill up. But, you know, it's very idiosyncratic. For some people, it's creative expression. They need to get out in their garden and prune those roses. And some people need to paint and sculpt and make bead jewelry. You know, it really is a challenge for each one of us to know, how do we fill up our soul tank? And then not let the levels get too low, that we need to give ourselves plentiful helpings of whatever it is that allows us to feel life is good. Come on, challenges, I'm ready for you. You know, because when the soul tank's low and empty, the least little thing can feel like a burden and a have to. And, oh no, you know, I have to return those phone calls. I have to answer those emails. I have to, you know, clean up the house. I have to pull those weeds in the garden. And that's a totally different mindset. It's stressful when you feel like you must have to, duty, obligation, rather than get to. I want to do this.
Right.
This is my life. I want to. You know, my kids are so cute. I want to play with them. My grandkids are so cute. I want to play with them.
Yeah. You know, I got stopped way back there about the garden. Once I was actually counseled to get out of my house because I was feeling like I couldn't go out and spend my time with my flowers and my plants, and because I just had other things I had to do. And I planted some daisies in the front of the house. And when I was a little girl, I would wake up before, little under 10, I would wake up before anyone in the house, put on my favorite little outfit, and go out and water the daisies. It was just.
You knew early in life what filled your soul.
Well, I didn't stay with it though.
They knew when they were a little girl or when they were preteen, and then they forgot while they were busy,
Right.
living other people's script for their life. And the thing about being in your garden and being near the flowers, this is actually a very popular way that people de-stress and fill their soul tank, is they need to be in nature. They walk in the forest, they mountain climb, or they just go sit on the porch and gaze at their yard. Did you know that gardening is the most popular hobby?
No.
Yes, that is the most popular hobby. And I'm sure that it's because of creative expression and being outdoors in nature. And I think a lot of people suffer the way you did, where they think they only get to go have fun and take that walk in nature or be with their flowers after they get all the tasks done. They need to be responsible. And that's fun, but that's for kids. Or only my reward after I get everything done, rather than reversing that, not all the time, but enough of the time so that they're really having their fun and they're really feeling uplifted and juiced, and the soul tank's full. And then when you go do those tasks, they're not so onerous, they're enjoyable, and we're really present for our life rather than forcing ourselves.
One of the most fun things that's happened this spring is that I planted a plant in one little pot right in front of on the way into the house. And it had beautiful purple flowers, and I did not know it was an annual. And this year I was thinking, I've got to pull those Odell Brutes out, and all of a sudden they were pretty. And I just thought, well, how wonderful. I have this sweet little plant that came back.
Right.
And it was,
And you're all lit up and glowing while you're saying that. So your soul tank's filling up even thinking about it.
and nobody else in the family was really excited. So
It's different strokes for different folks.
it
What lights one person up wouldn't light another person up.
Oh, well, you had suggested that I ask you some other ways. I don't know, you've talked about a lot of them. Do you have any other ways to keep our soul tank filled up? Have we
Well,
covered?
see, I'm a people person.
Mhm.
So being with my favorite people
Yeah.
and sharing experiences, and particularly having meaningful conversations. So I call it the S&M, but it's not that kind of S&M. It's the significant and meaningful S&M. You know, that you have the kind of conversations where you go deep. I like to be with the deep divers. I like to be with the people who are interested in personal growth and spiritual development, and who will go deeper than the superficial conversation about nice weather we're having, you know, how about that ball team? Do you know, that really speak about the things that are most important. And, you know, my husband and I teach a number of classes, but one of the classes that we teach is called The Art of Joyful Living. We also teach another course on happiness called Thriving. And we do a search of the literature, the best books that we can find about positive psychology, and people that we respect in the field say across the board is that you get your greatest happiness and deep life satisfaction from your closest relationships.
Absolutely.
Spouse, lover, your closest friends, your closest family members, and what I call family of choice. Because some people don't have the kind of closeness with their blood relatives, so we need to go shopping and find them and create that kind of family, you know, elsewhere with people who aren't our real blood. And then when we pick our favorites, do you know, I call that my dialing for dollars list. That's my real wealth in life.
Mm-hmm.
And to spend a lot of time with those people in meaningful conversations.
Yes.
I think that sometimes people are missing an extraordinary opportunity because they don't talk the risky talk to try to take the conversation to a place of depth. And I think a lot of people are just waiting for somebody to instigate that kind of a conversation because they want it, but they're a little shy about doing it.
Oh, I hadn't even thought of that. I'm pretty open. Well, I do test who I can talk to about certain things, you know, but it's those are the really most meaningful. I'm thinking of walks with friends and just chatting all the way. It's really wonderful.
That's what I'm talking about, and I get some of my exercise in with walks and talks.
Yeah.
I used to live near the beach, so walking the beach is one of my favorite things to do. And if I can walk the beach with somebody that I love and have meaningful talks, man, that's hitting the jackpot for me. My soul tank's filled up to the top.
You know, I love the beach. We live in the mountains, and I love the mountains. But my parents lived near the beach, and every time I would go visit, they would have to stop the car right outside the airport so I could walk in the beach, and then I was okay. I could come back.
Come to Santa Cruz and walk the beach with me. We have a beautiful beach right near where I live.
Oh, how wonderful. Yeah, well, it's been, I was in Southern California in my childhood, so that was a place I loved.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's talk to them about your next book and how it affects your free gift, because you guys are going to get a glimpse at something that's yet to come.
Uh-huh. Well, the book that we're planning to put out in 2017 is our memoir, and it's scheduled to be out before the end of this year. And the working title is Into and Out of the Abyss. In 2018, we're planning to have our book on managing differences well, which is also a mighty stress reducer.
Yeah.
You find out how to negotiate for your needs and how to work with anger so that it, you know, isn't abrasive and jarring in your relationship, how you can speak truth without blame and judgment in it, because people are so reactive to criticism.
Yeah.
So From Conflict to Connection is going to be 2018.
Okay.
2019, after we get the conflict book and the memoir out, then we're going to have this book about realizing your wildest dreams for a great relationship. And the working title for that is Going for the Gold. So the free gift that people get for signing up to be on our email list is excerpted from Going for the Gold.
Oh, how exciting.
Yes, we're very jazzed about it.
Oh, that's fun. I'm just thinking, I had lots of thoughts going through my mind while you were talking about the the anger and how prevalent it is, even out of our private areas. Anger is pretty big here right now, and
Yes.
that will
And
be
it's
perfect.
related to stress very closely, because when people feel angry and resentful and agitated and they hold it in, it creates stress. And when they speak it, it's an attempt to get the stress reduced, but it often is expressed in such a crude way that it invites retaliation. And then afterward, people say, I didn't really mean that, and they feel guilty about hurting somebody or being harsh, and so learning how to handle differences well and handle anger well, and to go to that vulnerable place where we speak the truth of our experience about our fear and pain rather than the anger, and there's always fear and pain underneath. That is such a healing for people, and then they can express themselves, but they don't invite the reactivity and the blowback, the retaliation, which creates a lot of stress in people's lives when they don't handle differences well. So this is really bang on, right on target to reduce stress, is get your conflict management skills honed.
And that's the part that the Going for the Gold addresses?
Well, that's part of Going for the Gold, but we wrote a whole book about managing differences.
Right.
Yeah, so that one's coming first.
That one, yeah. Okay.
Going for the Gold is going to be a Secrets of Great Relationships. Part of which is handling differences well, and part of which is compassionate self-care. Do you know?
I'm learning.
Really good care of ourselves, including learning how to de-stress, so that we can bring our absolute best, happiest, wholesome self to the relationship. Because that's what great relationships are made of, with both people doing their own work to bring their great, happy, whole self.
Right. And that's what you generally show when you're courting. And then afterwards, you get all the other stuff that you're dealing with.
You have to leave the Garden of Eden.
So you're just getting back to your real self, basically.
Yes, it is. You go through many stages.
Mm-hmm.
You leave the infatuation where we're kind of drugged. Nature's trick to keep the species going, that we have all these endorphins coming through our brain, dumped out of our brain into our bloodstream, and we're really kind of out of it. The visionary is active, so there is some wonderful things about seeing possibilities, but everybody leaves that infatuation stage and goes through disillusionment and power struggle and individuation. But if you do the work in all of those stages, you get to come to a place that's the magician stage, that's the co-creativity, where you're whole as an individual, really done your work, and then you get to have the beauty of the infatuation without the being doped up. The grounded, falling in love with your feet on the ground.
It is really wonderful. I know we've been married 50 years just now, and I think you're close, right?
Yes, next September we will be together. Next year.
And they certainly have varied through the years. And I've been really fortunate to be with people who were psychologists that were good friends. And I remember one time I thought I had some kind of telepathy with my husband, and that he knew everything I felt. And she sat me down and she said, "Kay, you're going to have to draw a very good picture of how you feel and explain that, because he doesn't get it." And it was like, really? Because I thought I knew how he felt, but it's a real learning process, and I'm so glad you put it together for us.
No matter how close we are, and it sounds like you have had and do have a very close relationship with your husband, and I have had and do have a very close relationship with my husband, we still can't read their minds, and they can't read ours. And that's one of the myths in the last book, is the mind reading. And I suffered with this one for a long time when I was
did too, yeah.
a young bride, and I thought, if he really loved me, he'd know what I needed without my having to ask him. Now he doesn't love me too much. And I believed that. It didn't occur to me, that maybe he loved me a lot, but that he really wasn't as tuned in to the ways in which I wanted the love shown. And I came to understand that I really didn't want to get vulnerable and ask. That he might say no, or that he'd think I was too needy,
It takes courage. Yeah, it does take courage.
It really is one of the ways that we as women can de-stress.
Mm-hmm.
Tell ourselves the truth about what we really need and what we really desire, and then grow the kind of courage to risk asking for it. Because these partners in our life, they love us and they want us to be happy. And most of them are smart enough to get this thing about enlightened self-interest. They know if they have a happy wife, they have a happy life.
Yeah.
They want us to be happy. But sometimes we hold back in telling our vision of what it would really be like. With all
I know exactly. Yeah. And my husband is really good about saying she's right. Would you rather be right or single, So yes, it does grow. And if those of you who are on who are just newly married, I'll tell you, I think there's a 10-year mark, kind of. When you get past that, things go evening out, and you get your head together, and then it just starts getting better. I thought it was really, 30 was fabulous, and 50, I couldn't have asked for more.
Well, we had some difficulty in our 30s. And that's the period of time from the mid-30s until the early 40s that the memoir covers.
Oh.
Because I lived in chronic stress for several years. My husband took a job that was his absolute dream job, but he worked at it 80 hours a week when the children were all really small.
Oh, and you can use help.
And I didn't have enough help. I didn't have any family, and I wasn't sensible enough to get a nanny at the time and needed one desperately, and I was knocking myself out.
Mm-hmm.
And our family almost broke up during that time. So we depict in our memoir how we managed to keep the family intact under massive amount of stress, and then how we broke through to a relationship that even had a higher level of trust and well-being in the end. But it was hard won, and we were just hanging by threads for a long time, because it was a real clash of values where I wanted family first and marriage first, and he put career first.
Mm-hmm.
I've said, there's a broken agreement. I didn't sign on for this, and I'm really upset about it. And he couldn't budge because he loved his job so much, and he was learning so much, and he was contributing so much. But I got put in the traditional woman role, and that wasn't what we signed on for. We signed on for egalitarian partnership.
Mm-hmm.
Mutually support each other's careers, and then I was in this traditional wife position, and I didn't like it. And I miffed, and we fought a lot. We fought badly, and it was ugly, and I ended up developing breast cancer. I'm sure that it was from the stress. I have no doubt that was a major contributing factor. And I'm a 25-year survivor now, so
congratulations!
I'm completely healthy. But it was a dark passage. We really made descent into the hell realms, and then we made the ascent to even greater than before. And I think people need these kind of stories, about how to move through the stress and to come through.
Yes, in those periods, I had a business that took a lot of my time, and so it was helpful. The differences at 10 and 30, I felt, were at 10, it's still kind of based on selfishness and
Mhm.
unreality. But at 30, it's more based on your deep convictions that you understand and you finally have picked up and held on to. And if they don't coincide, that's really tough. I was blessed to be really busy. So we did actually do a little separation that kids didn't even realize was a separation during that time. But it wasn't as risky as the early stages. In the early stages, I felt like people could throw a really good thing away without trying to work it out.
Isn't
And
that a shame? It breaks my heart
yeah, I feel
that
really
they
sad
see
about
their marriages, the partner is disposable.
it. Hmm.
And there's a fair amount of research out now about these long-term happy couples.
Hmm.
They all went through a rough patch,
Absolutely. Yeah.
really rough, some of them. And they're so glad that they didn't bail. So I
Mhm.
think that we can learn something from these wise elders who've been together 50, some of them 60 years.
Yeah,
And
don't
to their
think about
story.
us as old ladies. Think about us as people who understand what you're going through if you're younger.
Yes, and it can get pretty dark, you
Hmm.
know, but there is a possibility that if you keep doing your own work, learn to become more forgiving and more tolerant and more patient and more courageous to negotiate for your needs, learn about responsible, compassionate self-care. This is your deepest life lessons that you're challenged, and instead of killing the messenger, listen to the message and learn what you're supposed to be learning in this lifetime.
Right.
You
And
may be able to break through to a higher level of well-being than you've ever known.
yeah, it can be really wonderful. We're going to have to wrap it up. I didn't realize how long we've been going. I just really so appreciate you being with me and with all of you who are hearing this. I'm grateful that you have this opportunity. If you have friends that might like to hear it, just send them a link. I think that would be great. And don't miss her free gift. You're going to get a little piece of the future thoughts coming out that have been brewing through all these other years. I would take a look at the books that have been written. And also go to the website. It's bloomwork.com. Check out bloomwork.com and just be amazed at all that she has to offer. Thanks again.
It's a delight to be with you, Kay.